to actually levy a charge on UPI, saying there's a difference between payment and transfer. But that's all been made very clear now, no longer possible. Now, having a zero MDR charge was a long-standing demand of the Payment Council of India, and my next guest personally was responsible as part of the Payment Council of India to explain to the government, to explain to the Reserve Bank and the various wings why MDR must be zero, why it's absolutely necessary if digitization has to go forward and India meets its objective goal of digital payments. So joining me now is the chairman of the Payments Council of India, Vishwas Patel, joining us live right here on Startup Central. Thank you so much. You know, I've interviewed you in the past. It was also the run-up to the union budget where you were hoping for good news. The good news that the Payment Council of India has been seeking is now officially here. Now, Vishwas Patel, why we've been hearing that how, if you have a charge on UPI, if you have an MDR, it's going to stand in the way of digital transactions. But, you know, I have to ask you this, and I'm playing devil's advocate. You say that, but at the same time, the Reserve Bank of India's latest data shows that the UPI payments, digital transactions are at a record high, almost 1.4 billion.
Yes, hi Nayantara. UPI is bound to grow, MDR or no MDR, because the way it is cannibalizing all other debit mechanism to a bank account. So it is cannibalizing a check transfer, it is cannibalizing NEFT, it is cannibalizing RTGS, it's even cannibalizing the debit card. Because it's a mobile-first use of functionality and allowing P2P without any charges, so that is bound to grow, right? And the usage of UPI going forward, it will cannibalize all other ways of debiting a bank account. So that growth is going to be there, right? The only problem is that the system providers that are there, like you see, banks have been trying in some way or the other to make sense of providing the services and make some money to at least take care of the costs. Similarly, the technology service providers or the payment gateways or payment aggregators like CC Avenue and other players in our council, we are providing it free of charge. We are processing all these transactions, Nayantara, free of charge. And anything free to a certain reasons, the customers will love it, the merchants will love it, but till when will it provide? So if you see an overall loss for this growth, and because it is a COVID period and people are afraid to touch cash and contactless payments is the name of the game right now. So UPI is bound to grow. But overall, the system providers and everybody are making a lot of losses. So even if you look at overall what has happened from January to now, almost like more than 10 lakh crores, it effectively means a 5,000 crore loss to all the payment system providers, the banks and other things, either 30 bips MDR or other things, right? Similarly, on RuPay card also, if you have seen, banks are moving away from issuing RuPay card. You saw Economic Times reported that Paytm is no longer issuing a RuPay debit card. It is moving towards a Visa card, right? And they are moving towards international networks. So in essence means is that if a bank is issuing a RuPay card, they are not going to recover any cost of issuance of the plastic. They are not going to recover any kind of MDR whenever a customer swipes and debits a bank account. Now, who's going to pay right now for the card? Who's going to pay for the service? Who's going to pay for the technology? Who's going to pay for the security? Right now, because it's COVID period and other things, we are supporting. But somewhere down the line, anything free is going to bring to the whole system halt. So the transactions might grow. It will grow because we're still at 12% digital of the overall economy. But still a headway of 88% is there. And if government keeps committing this, government not doing what it should be doing is that regulating and putting processes in place instead of getting into the market of what sale price should be, it's going to be detrimental to the overall payment ecosystem. Nayantara.
I take your point, and I'm going to now ask you something on behalf of all the entrepreneurs, fintech startups that are tuning in. Now, if there's going to be no MDR, what's in it for the payment guys? What's in it for the fintech startups? How are they supposed to also monetize? Because, you know, the real fear is the minute there is no levy whatsoever, will they start monetizing data, which is something that consumers may not be happy about?
Indeed. So that's where the push is coming. It's forcing a young startup with no practical domain knowledge of lending, because lending is a different ball game. We have like 1,000 bank plus we have almost another hundreds of NBFCs all playing, and you see the amount of shakeout that is happening in the NBFC industry. So lending by this young startup just getting in because they have been told that they are not going to make any money because payments is commoditized, and you start becoming a bank and start lending, or you try to monetize the data in some other shape and form, which is again detrimental to the consumer's interest. And ultimately, our thinking is that we are payment service providers, right? We are supposed to get on a merchant, help its consumers to pay that merchant. We're just supposed to process and give it out. Now, what it entailing it to do is that is to monetize on the data of the customer or of the merchants and use it in some other way, which some may be beneficial, but most of it might be misused. In a sense that a payment aggregator should be like Caesar's wife. It has to be above board. Right? They should just process the transaction and give the service. But now we are being forced to monetize on the data of the merchants, on the data of the merchants' customers, amongst other things. So where does it take it from here, Nayantara, in the sense that is this what we are supposed to do? Is it not where you say PayPal is launching, you see PayPal numbers? They're making huge money on MDR and everywhere in the world. Nowhere in the world is there zero MDR. You see any numbers of any other, like a Fiserv in US or any other payments, say Alibaba in China, fantastic MDR numbers, and still 40 to 42% is still earned from that MDR. So why cut off that by providing anything free will not work? Merchants will like it, because if you see any movie like Three Idiots also free, then the consumer who's unconscious will wake up, right? But when we actually have to see how the system works. Like even tomorrow, government says that, okay, let's reduce the pollution and let's make trains free, right? We'll make the trains free, right? But then who will pay for running the trains? It's as simple as that.
So let me ask you then, you're bringing up PayPal, you're bringing up Alibaba. For the benefit of our viewers, who are consumers, as well as those who are harboring ambitions for fintech, what, according to you, the chairman of the Payment Council of India, is a workable model, a lucrative model, a win-win model for all stakeholders? Everybody needs to win, right?
Yes. So a typical model would have been what we have already suggested, and it's not suggested just by the Payments Council of India, but various committees that have been appointed by RBI from time to time. You read the Ratan Vittal report put up by the Finance Ministry. You read the report of Nandan Nilekani, and even if you read the report of Professor Patak's committee or the QR code committee that they have put up, very clearly it has been stated that there has to be a lower controlled MDR for the whole system to work. Right, and a lower controlled MDR, we are saying that on a 100 rupee transaction, a lower MDR of 20 bips or 30 bips, amounting to 20 paisa or 30 paisa. So the whole system of issuance, acceptance, as well as the network fees are covered. So it grows systematically. Worldwide, there is nowhere in the world there is zero MDR, right? If you want to have a systematic growth for all the players, right, and the players' growth will also come in is that if some revenue coming in, then there is a bigger ecosystem effect of big money coming in as investments, right? You have seen a couple of $1 billion investments in all the fintechs that had come in pre-zero MDR and various things, right? So there has to be a lower controlled MDR where all ecosystem works, and that can be very easily managed, because that is the right of RBI. RBI had earlier brought in a debit card MDR and done this, but right now the politicians have gone in, and the Finance Ministry and the executives have come in and made it into a law. Nowhere in the world is an MDR put in as part of the Payments and Settlements Act, passed as an act of parliament, and straight put up that zero MDR on all UPI and RuPay debit card transactions. So now the question is that it should be via notification of RBI, but now the law has become a law, and you are doing directly an illegal thing. So now even if you want to change, it takes an act of parliament to change it. right? And so it's something not heard of anywhere in the world. And the way we are trading right now, you will collapse the industry in the sense that, okay, RuPay will keep growing because it's cannibalizing a check, a demand draft or NEFT, which were very old methods of transferring funds right now. So that growth part, UPI will be there. But you see the growth part on your RuPay debit cards, see how many cards are issued versus it was earlier issued. So like a base of 550 million. You take over the last 6 months, how many banks are issuing? Paytm, the Payments Bank, has stopped issuing RuPay debit card. I'm sure all other banks are giving lesser choices of RuPay and more of MasterCard, Visa. Indirectly, the whole idea of having our own card network in the country, a national card network, right? And a card. If our own banks, Indian banks, are not is not going to make it economically viable for them to issue a RuPay, why not give a master visa? At least on that they will get an interchange of 30-40 bips. So issuing guys, you go and meet any of the banks.
1 second, as the chairman of the payment, as the chairman, Kumar Vishwas, as the chairman of the Payments Council of India, are you telling us on EtNow that the likes of Paytm, Payments Bank have stopped issuing RuPay cards? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, if you've seen its own Economic Times articles around a month back, they have stopped issuing RuPay card and they have moved on to a Visa, issuing Visa debit cards. I see a similar trend in a lot of private sector banks. I'm seeing a similar trend in a lot of even public sector banks. Because issuing a RuPay card, they either earn nothing on issuance nor on acquiring, and it's anything free. Why will they get into it, Nayantara?
Vishwas Patel, apologies, I got a name wrong out of force of habit. I apologize profusely for that. Vishwas Patel, when you say this as well, then what, I know you're throwing in various names of committees and a lot of our viewers are aware of the recommendations, a lot of them are not. Now, I understand that a lot of banks, private banks, payment apps are of the view that, okay, if you don't charge on the transaction or on the UPI itself, you have to find some other way of charging, right? Because they also, I guess, want to make money. What can that be?
So as I said, so banks found it that if they do more than 20 free UPI transactions in a month, they're going to impose some charge on the customers, on their bank account holders. That's very clearly since this become a law. And under the law, the Finance Ministry, the Income Tax Department has been giving the power of penalizing the merchants, because a joint commissioner level can can fine a particular merchant if he's not offering, if his turnover is more than 50 crores, is not offering, and if any of the merchants have charged for any UPI transaction, be it a bank or other things. So right now, as I said, so on these transactions, either directly or indirectly, there is no way to charge on RuPay debit card or UPI. I think the government has made it very clear. And I think if you see the notification of CBDT and the Finance Ministry official very clearly saying that if charged, it should be refunded immediately. And that.
Okay. It's been great having you on the show. Remember, the Income Tax Department, the CBDT, has also made it absolutely clear that any charges that have been levied since 1st of January have to be refunded. The debate rages on, but now that it's an act of parliament, let's see how all of this is going to pan out, whether the industry stakeholders are able to convince the government as well that how some kind of a payment does need to be paid. Till then, I guess it's all the way consumer zindabad. With that, we're going to take a short commercial break. But as we do that, I want to leave you with a tweet today by someone who's very well